Alright, staggering. These are some Irish jokes. Everyone here knows I'm Irish, so. Staggering home from the pub, Paddy been drinking at his local Dublin pub all day and most of the night celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Mick, the bartender, says, "You'll not be drinking any more tonight, Paddy." Paddy replies, "Okay, Mick, I'll be on my way then." Paddy spins around on his stool and steps off, and he falls flat on his face. Damn it! He says he pulls himself up by the stool and dusts himself off. He takes another step towards the door and falls flat on his face. "Oh, God, this is getting worse," he slurs. He looks to the doorway and thinks to himself, "If I can just get to that door and some fresh air, I'll be fine." He belly crawls to the door. He shimmies up the door frame. He sticks his head outside and takes a deep breath of fresh air. Feels much better. Takes a step out on the sidewalk, falls right flat on his face. "I'll never make it home," he mumbles amid more curses. He sees the house just a few doors down and crawls to the door and shimmies up the door frame, opens the door and shimmies him way inside. He takes a look up the stairs and grunts, "Ain't no way." But he crawls up the stairs to his bedroom door and he says, "Maybe I can just make it to the bed." He steps a step into the room, falls flat on his face. He says, "To hell with it." He falls into the bed. The next morning, his wife, Bertie, comes into the room carrying a cup of coffee and says, "Get up, Paddy. Did you have a bit to drink last night?" Paddy says, "I didn't, Bertie. I was totally scuttered pissed. My head's throbbing. But how'd you know?" "Well, Mick phoned me from the bar. You left your wheelchair at the pub." Alright, so a cab driver picks up a nun. She gets into the cab, and the cab driver won't stop staring at her. She asks him, "What you staring at?" And he replies, "I have a question to ask you, but I don't want to offend you." She answers, "My dear son, you cannot offend me. When you're as old as I am, I have been a nun as long as I have, you get a chance to see and hear just about everything. I'm sure that there's nothing you could say or ask that I would find offensive." "Well, I've had a fantasy about kissing a nun." And she responds, "Well, let me see what we can do about that. Number one, you have to be single. And number two, you have to be Catholic." The cab driver's very excited. He says, "Yes, I'm single and I'm Catholic too." The nun says, "Okay, pull into the next alley." He does, and the nun fulfills his fantasy. But when they get back on the road, the cab driver starts crying. And she goes, "My dear child, why are you crying?" She says, "Forgive me, sister, but I have sinned. I lied. I must confess I'm married and I'm a Baptist." And the nun says, "That's okay. I'm on my way to a Halloween party and my name is Kevin." And I can either keep going or let you back up here. It's up to you, man.
Keep going.
Okay. Alright, so here are rules. Here are the guys' rules for women. Please note that they're all numbered 1 on purpose. Number 1, learn to work the toilet seat. You're a big girl. It's up. Put it down. Number 1, birthdays, Valentine's, and anniversaries are not quests to see if we can find the perfect present yet again. Number 1, sometimes we're not thinking about you. Live with it.
Yeah.
Number 1, do not ask us what we are thinking about unless you're prepared to discuss such topics as naval lint, the shotgun formation, and NASCAR, and also football and rugby.
Yeah.
Number 1, Sunday equals sports. It's like the full moon or the changing of the tides. Let it be. So is Saturday.
The whole weekend.
Yeah. Shopping is not a sport, and no, we are never going to think of it that way. Number 1, when we have to go somewhere, absolutely anything you wear is fine, really.
Yeah.
Number 1, crying is blackmail. Number 1, ask for what you want. Let us be clear on this one. Subtle hints do not work. Strong hints do not work. Obvious hints do not work. Just say it. Number 1, we don't remember dates, mark birthdays and anniversaries on a calendar, and remind us frequently to look at that calendar beforehand. Number 1, most guys own 3 pairs of shoes. Tops. What makes you think we'd be any good at choosing which pair out of 30 would look good with your dress? Number 1, yes and no are perfectly acceptable answers to almost every question. Number 1, come to us with a problem only if you want help solving it. That's what we do. Sympathy is what your girlfriends are for. Number 1, a headache only lasts for 17, or if a headache lasts for 17 months, it's a problem. You should see a doctor. Number 1, check your oil, please. Number 1, anything we said 6 months ago is inadmissible in an argument. In fact, all comments become null and void after 7 days. Number 1, if you won't dress like the Victoria's Secret girls, don't expect us to act like soap opera guys. Number 1, if something we said can be interpreted 2 ways, and one of the ways makes you sad or angry, we meant the other one. Number 1, you can either ask us to do something or tell us how you want it done, not both. If you want to know how it's best to do it, just do it your damn self.
Oh, that's a good one.
Number 1, whenever possible, please say whatever you have to say during commercials. Number 1, Christopher Columbus did not need directions, and neither do we. I got a couple more. Number 1, the relationship is never going to be like it was the first 2 months we were going out. Get over it and quit whining to your girlfriends. Number 1, all men see in only 16 colors, like Windows default settings. Peach, for example, is a fruit, not a color. Pumpkin is also a fruit. We have no idea what the fuck mauve is. Number 1, if it itches, it will be scratched. We do that. Number 1, we are not mind readers and we never will be. Our lack of mind reading ability is not proof of how little we care about you.
Just means superpowers don't exist.
Yes. And number 1, if we ask what's wrong with you and you say nothing, we will act like nothing's wrong. We know you're lying.
Yay.
But it's just not worth the hassle. So, and the last couple, about 4. Number 1, you have enough clothes. Number 1, you have enough shoes. Number 1, did I ever have? Number 1, I'm in shape because round is a shape. Number 1, thank you for reading this. Yes, I know I have to sleep on the couch tonight. And number 1, but did you know we men really don't mind that? It's like camping in the wild, but without the shotgun. And with that, I hand things off to Catboy.
Hey, Braydon wins.